Welcome. I'm so excited you guys are here today. We've got a fabulous guest, but I just want to ask you, how do you get back up when life kicks you down? Have you been there when something was harder than you imagined, or something has happened to you and you're like, how am I going to get through this? Or you just feel like, you know what? This mistake I've made is going to take me out. Have you been there? Well, guess what? You're not alone. There are many people like you, and today's guest is going to explain to you exactly how you can get through it. And of course, you guys, we're going to have facts and figures, and we're going to have rubber that meets the road. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, because we're so excited to have our friend today. So Jada, who's joining us to help us get out of the rut today?
Yo, we have Lindsey Scott joining us today, and we are so excited to have you, Lindsey. We'll let you tell your story, so I won't spoil it for them, but just wanted to welcome you and say we are so happy to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm so hey, so I just gotta tell everybody. I know Jada. I'm fortunate in both of our podcasts, Referral Roadmap and this podcast, to have some amazing friends. And so I just want to tell you guys a little bit about my friend Lindsey. So she is first and foremost a mom, a wife, an amazing friend, an advocate for women in our community. But outside of that, she also is a mortgage lender at Stride Mortgage, and a fabulous bank with a great heart here in Oklahoma City. She has years of experience, financial experience. And so she's smart. She also, by the way, just finished her master's degree. Yes, balancing it all, you know. But the other thing that she does, here you guys go. She also is on the board of, I'm going to make sure, Sober Vibes OKC. And you guys, once you hear her story, you're going to understand. This is a women's living home in Oklahoma, helping women get through recovery, but more importantly, get back on their feet financially, emotionally. And they are doing enormous things. She's part of that movement here in Oklahoma. And I know, based on talking to her, that they are working on getting a second home to incorporate kids to be able to stay with their parents, with the mom in this case. And so this is a woman doing a lot of things. So when you hear her testimony, when you hear her story, I want you to see where she was to where she's at, and be inspired. And I really hope that you will save this so you can come back and write some of the notes, because maybe you need to hear it, or maybe somebody you love needs to hear this podcast. So we want to subscribe and share this. But Lindsey, thank you so much for being here, friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful that you thought of me when this topic came to be. It means the world to me. And I'm really excited to be here and kind of share a little bit of my story that maybe not a lot of people know. And I'm excited. Thanks. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. So I always like to start, before we get into the questions, just a little more than 30 seconds, 1 minute here. Tell the audience your story.
Oh, gosh. In a minute.
And then we'll get deeper.
Yeah. So I am 8.5 years sober. July, I will be 9 years sober, one day at a time. And it was a long road to get here. There has been a lot of work put in. I was in a really, really dark place for a lot of years prior to that. And so for reference, I'm 8.5 years sober, and I started going to treatments over 11 years ago. So there was a 3-year period where I knew that I had a problem and tried and I just could not get there. And I think that a lot of people relate to that. I talk to a lot of people every day, newly in recovery or that are trying to get sober and don't know where to start. And I was there, and I absolutely empathize with that. And I've always vowed to kind of recover out loud. And if you're friends with me on Facebook or any social media, you know that. And the reason that I do that is because so many people recovered out loud when I was newly sober. And it was those women that I watched, and I thought, man, I want what she has. How do I get what she has? And for me, it's always been so important to be super authentic about my recovery and the ugly truth behind it, and the years when I wasn't sober. So hopefully we can share some of that today, and you'll get to know me a little bit better.
I love it. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for, first of all, just thank you for your willingness to share your story, to be able to inspire and help other people. So you've achieved quite a bit in a decade. When we just said your accolades, somebody would be like, well, yeah, she's been doing that maybe for 30 years, right? But really, you've done a lot of that in the last decade. But your journey started in a dark place. Can you share what the turning point was for you? What made you decide to finally take control of your life?
There are a lot of things that kind of led up to that. There are a few really core memories that I have in that beginning period. And like I said, I went to my first treatment over 11 years ago. And I remember going in and knowing that I had a problem with alcohol. So my issue has always been with alcohol. I am a binge drinker. And when I say a binge drinker, I'm not not for one night, for 2 and 3 week periods on end. And then I would sober up for a few days, apologize to everybody I could possibly think of for everything I had done in that 2 or 3 week period. And then it would just keep going. So the issue for me was that when I went into treatment, my first treatment at 11 and a half, almost 12 years ago, is that I didn't relate to a lot of the stories because I had not lost everything. I had not lost a car or a spouse or a job or a house, any of those things. And I didn't relate. And it almost kind of validated my drinking because it made me feel like, well, I'm not as bad as her. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Until I was. And so slowly but surely, the losses started happening. And they were big losses. Some were material things. I remember I had, and I don't think anybody knows this, and given what I do for a living, I think a lot of people would be surprised. So my house was behind on mortgage payments and I was getting foreclosure notices. I was sitting in my home one day and someone knocked on my door and they repossessed my car. And so material things started happening. And what's crazy is that sitting in my driveway and watching them take my car away, the only thing this is the obsession of the mind when it comes to alcohol. The only thing I was thinking of was, dang it, now I'm going to have to walk to the liquor store. And that's what I did. And that's what I did. There was no, oh my gosh, I have gone bad on this debt. I have ruined my credit. I have, all of these things. Just the really authentic truth is that my first thought was, and that's what I did. So rain, snow, sunshine, whatever it was, I walked to the liquor store until I was able to get a car years later. So that was kind of one big thing that happened. The real turning point for me was when my sister, who is my absolute very best friend on the planet, had just had my nephew about a year prior. And he was the first boy in our family, the first grandchild, the first nephew. I mean, he was just like the golden child, right? His name is Michael. We call him Mikey. And I was super close with him. I'm super close with my sister. So I became kind of it was just the three of us always hanging out. And my drinking had gotten so bad that at one point my sister and her husband at the time had come to me and said, hey, for Mikey's safety, you're no longer allowed around him. And I was so angry and so hurt because at the core of who I am as a person, I am not someone who would be a danger to any children. And anybody that knows me now in this version of myself knows that. But looking back and now being a mom, I fully understand it. There was no riding in a car with Aunt Lindsey. There was it was cut off. And I think that is when, now granted, like I said, there are a handful of things, but those are, losing my family truly was such a rock bottom for me. And losing this child who had, I think he was 18 months, maybe 2 at the time. And he was so important in my life. And for them to say that I was no longer allowed around him for his own safety made me really look inward at what is the perception of me? What is, what on earth am I doing that would make this okay?
Yeah.
And, aside from that, towards the kind of end of my drinking, I noticed So I was an avid energy drinker every morning as well. I mean, I didn't pay my car payment, but I had a fridge full of energy drinks. So,
Okay.
my priorities were totally in line.
Yeah.
And I remember one morning, I remember it so vividly. I can picture the refrigerator. I remember opening the refrigerator and going to grab an energy drink like I normally would. And my hands were shaking for the first time. And I knew what that meant. I knew that it meant that my body was having a physical withdrawal from alcohol. And I knew what would take that away was having a drink. And so that is when the morning drinking started. So instead of grabbing for that energy drink, I knew that if I had a drink, it would calm the shakes and it would calm what my body, the physical reaction my body was going through. And that is when things really just spiraled out of control. And it was about 6 months after that I sobered up. Yeah.
Thank goodness. I mean, thank goodness it was a 6-month period. I know so many people that once they get to that point, it goes very badly.
It's hard. It's really hard. Once your body, it truly is, like I said, alcoholism or any drug addiction in general is an obsession of the mind. And I think we all know it's a disease of the mind. And, when your body starts becoming dependent on it is when it gets really scary. And that's when, I had landed myself in that 3-year period. 24 detoxes, at every hospital in the city, it was just kind of part of the routine. I would go to a detox and then I'd feel so much better. And because my body was finally kind of rid of the alcohol. And then I would just start again. It's just the insanity of it.
I just want to share, this is kind of personal, and Jada knows this. My dad is an alcoholic, a severe alcoholic. He was a functioning alcoholic for 4 decades. And now he's no longer a functioning alcoholic. He is an alcoholic. And he's in his mid 70s and he had cancer treatment last year. And he is so addicted to alcohol, he could not stop drinking. Like his doctor said, even going through cancer treatment, he has to keep drinking. And I think I knew he was, but he was staying with me. And at that time, my rule was you can't drink in my house because I just got sick of dealing with a drunk dad. But I realized he couldn't live with me for 9 months and go through treatment and not be able to drink. And so I understand. I mean, his body just won't survive.
Right.
And
that's just the scary part about, there are only, I think, a couple of alcohol is one of them, where, detoxing off of alcohol can kill you. Yeah. And I mean, that's a prime example, is that when your body is so dependent on it, and it's a really, really scary thing. And it's almost kind of justifiable when you're an alcoholic to say, well, my body needs it now. And for my own safety, I'm going to, I have to continue drinking. And it's, just such a tough thing to balance.
It's very sad. And it's, I would not glorify the end of my dad's life. It's horrible. Horrible. But so talking to my dad and your situation, overcoming addiction is no small feat. I mean, come on. There are so many stories of people where the addiction win. But what mindset shifts or habits helped you break free and stay on your path of recovery?
It's so funny. I love this question because what I did for me that worked was so elementary.
I love that.
It's so funny because it was not rocket science. So of course I went to treatment, and I was in therapy with an LADC, a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, an incredible one here in Oklahoma. I went to outpatient, AA meetings, all of the things. But what really was my mindset shift was that I woke up every morning, and I still have the notebook somewhere. I've got to find it. And in my notebook, at the top of the page, I would write, I am going to stay sober today. It was as simple as that. And then at the bottom of the page every night, I would write, I'm so grateful to have stayed sober today. And that was it. And then slowly I would add, I'm going to stay sober today, and I'm going to reach out to this business referral. And it was like I was kind of just slowly getting myself back into living life. as a sober person. And then eventually, the tasks got longer and things like that. But I mean, for pages and pages and pages, literally all I would write was, I am going to stay sober today. There are a lot of people in recovery who say, the first thing you should do when you wake up in the morning is drop to your knees and pray. Please keep me sober today. And then at the end of the day, you say, thank you for keeping me sober today. And for me, there's power. I've always been this way. There's power in putting pen to paper. And for me, that just makes something real. And when I say I am going to stay sober today, it just makes that thought real. It makes it a tangible thing to me. And I did that for a really long time. And I would just write and journal. And like I said, my journals were very simple in the beginning. But that, paired with meetings that I was going to, an incredible group of women who are like-minded, who understood what I was going through, made it just so much easier. And it was still incredibly hard. Getting sober is not easy.
I love how you journaled and how you just added one thing at a time. Now, our listeners, you're probably on a treadmill or in a car or whatever, but that was powerful. Jada, that was a mic drop moment because the simplicity of not only with just addiction, but with anything, right? Sitting down and saying, today I'm going to commit to this, then I'm going to commit to this, and then adding, today I'm going to commit to this. That is powerful. So I just want to make sure, thank you for sharing that. And I want to make sure that the audience really caught that from you because, wow. I mean, you're living proof now, the therapy and the other things too, but such a powerful, I just want people to hear that. People who are struggling with depression or anxiety or whatever it is that is holding you down right now. I've been pretty honest about my circumstances with my daughter right now. And no matter what you're going through, what Lindsey just gave you could be so helpful. This is what I've got to do today. Shower, right?
Yes. And it really is things like that, because at the time, that is all I had the capacity to handle. I didn't have the capacity to handle a list. That was so overwhelming to me that it would, or even, I'm going to stay sober forever. I still don't say that. I'm 8.5 years sober and I will be sober today. And I say that to everybody that says you're not, like I don't even know why you're consider yourself in recovery. You're just sober now. No, I am sober today. And that is all my brain can fathom as an addict.
I love that. So now you explain how you got there and some of their tips. And I love that mic drop moment, but balancing a thriving mortgage business, you're extremely successful.
Thank you.
Starting your family, earning your master's degree. Those are incredible.
Thank you.
How did you prioritize, stay focused to being sober? How did you not get overwhelmed? Explain that, because I got to tell you what you've achieved in the last 10 years. People who've never had to overcome something as big as you have find that exceptional and inspiring. But you added a layer. How did you do it? Please help us understand. How do you prioritize that?
I remember laying in, and this is kind of always where I get a little bit emotional. I remember laying in that last detox center. And, they hook you up to IVs and they monitor your, whatever they're called, vitals, I'm trying to say. And I was alone at that point. I mean, nobody was coming to see me. This was the millionth time I had done this. They knew I would find a way home and that I would just do the same thing over again. And I remember laying there and thinking, I was 30 years old when I sobered up. I sobered it up on July 7th of 2016. And so I had just turned 30. And I remember thinking, all of what I had as a standard for myself, I had not accomplished. And I remember thinking, whatever is out there, whatever higher power, whatever universe, whatever you believe in, if you are out there, if you give me this chance, I will not waste it. I will not. And I meant it more than I probably ever had in my life. I will not waste it. And I think for me, I'm such a competitive person naturally, that that I started kind of competing with myself.
Ooh.
I will never compete with others. And I always say that, whether it's in business or anything like that. Because that is not good for my mental health either. So I am really aware these days of what works for my mental health and what doesn't. And so I compete with myself. And I have learned about myself that I thrive in chaos. And a lot of addicts and alcoholics do. And a lot of it for decades prior to that was negative chaos. I thrived in that negative chaos, the attention of the negative chaos, and woe is me. And I was very much a victim and all of those things. And what I learned throughout this process is that I can thrive in the positive chaos. And I still get that same feeling of satisfaction. I still get that gratitude of I get to do this. I get to go to class tonight. I get to do these things because I was given a second, third, 57th chance, whatever it was. And so for me, it was always just, I am going to thrive in this chaos. And I would add things to my plate, and people in my life would be like, Lindsey, are you sure you're going to take that on? And, I will say my master's degree was a very long 3 years. And about halfway through, I was like, okay, this is where I think we have drawn the line at this point. But you know what? We made it through, because I always go back to those days of walking to the liquor store, and I would go to the ends of the earth to get alcohol. And I mean that, Athena, I would go to the ends of the earth. And if I can do that for alcohol, I can go to the ends of the earth for my child, for my education, for my career, for other women out there, needing help. And so I have shifted my mindset to that. If I'll go to any lengths and walk, 7 miles uphill in the snow for alcohol, then by God, I can do that for school or to get another certification or whatever it is.
Okay, so I just have to tell you, Lindsey, that's a book right there. That is beautiful. If I could do that for alcohol, what could I do for my life? That is beautiful. That is a mind shift. That's a cognitive therapy mind shift that is paramount to your success. I would love to see you someday really on your own podcast, a book, whatever it is. I don't want to shit on you, but that is powerful.
I appreciate
Very
it.
Powerful. I've never actually heard it said like that. And so that is beautiful.
Thank you. It really is wow. a total mind shift change. It just really is. And when you've been through such trauma and made so many mistakes, and you just feel like you're at your lowest of lows. And I have been there, and I know you, I'm sure you've been there. Everybody gets there at some point. You're at this rock bottom of your life. It doesn't have to be with addiction. It can be with anything, you're just at your lowest. And I think it's so important to never forget that. And if you do, that's when you start, I think when entitlement kind of comes in. And I have always made it a point, I am not entitled to any of this. I am so grateful because I do not deserve this, and that was my mindset for so long, because the person I was 8.5 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, absolutely did not deserve the opportunities that have been laid in front of her today.
Wow. So I do have a question for you. Were you married?
No.
So you got sober, and you got a hubby and a son. You got a life?
Yeah. So me and Matt are not married yet.
Okay. Pardon me.
No, you're fine. So we're not married yet. So here is what's even crazier is that I got sober, and I only had 8 months sober when I found out that I was pregnant with my son. And I say only 8 months, because
thank God.
Yeah, no kidding. So I was terrified. I didn't even have a year sober, and I was absolutely terrified. And so I really doubled down on therapy meetings. I did a lot of EMDR. I don't know if a lot of
people. Okay, we talk a lot about that on here. Yes.
Yeah, because I knew that alcoholism runs in my family. And I think that's common. And I love that we're talking about it more. When I sobered up 8.5, or even when I went to treatment 11 years ago, it was like, don't tell anybody, And that's changing. And I love that, but it was not like that at the time. And so when alcoholism runs in my family, and I knew that if I was going to break that, I now had a child coming in hot. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it 100%. And I am going to break that cycle. And my son or daughter, I didn't know at the time, he's my son, but my son is never going to see a mom or a dad or a grandparent or whatever that is just out of it, is just not there. And I have a 7-year-old boy who is the greatest thing on the planet. And he has a mom that he has never seen on any mind altering substance. And that to me is unfathomable given who I was. My nephew that I spoke about, that was kind of, thank God for him. I hope he hears this someday and understands the magnitude of that story. He's 10 now. And I don't think, we've always had this really special bond. And I don't know if he'll ever understand really the magnitude of how much he changed and saved my life. And we are just the best of friends. And my son and him are the best of friends. And it could not be any more perfect. And I am still in awe sometimes that that's my life, Well,
I love that. Now, a lot of people listening feel trapped by their past mistakes and their failures, right? And I want you to talk to them. How do they let go of the weight and build confidence back to pursue ambitious goals where they don't feel like they're worthless or they're not good enough? Can you help them understand how to do that and how you did it?
It's so hard. It's so hard. And I think that here's where I'm at with that, is that I had to get to a point, and I am going to drop an F-bomb here.
Do it.
I had to get to a point where I had to say, fuck what everybody thinks about me. This is my life. I have made my mistakes. I am so grateful for those mistakes. And I know this sounds crazy. I spoke at a conference once and I said, I am so grateful my car got repossessed. I am so grateful I got caught in so many lies. I am so grateful that I was a thief. I am so grateful that I did all of it. I'm so grateful that my nephew was taken away from me. And shifting that into gratitude is where you take your power back. And that was pivotal for me. Because and I will say the first year of my sobriety, it was very, woe is me. I don't get to drink anymore. And now I have to go to these meetings. I have to go to this therapy because I get to do these things. I am so grateful that I say it all the time, even when I introduce myself. My name is Lindsey and I'm a grateful alcoholic. And I will always say that because I am so grateful for what I've been through without having gone through and losing those things and embarrassing myself. Oh, the embarrassment, Athena, is so deep in your core. And you get to that point where you say, you know what? I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me, because I'm going to save my life and I'm going to prove them wrong. And I'm going to go after my goals and my ambitions. And the other thing is, like I said, write them down. Whatever your brain can handle, whatever capacity you can handle for that one day. Write it down. And build on that.
I love that. So you keep going back to the writing it down, letting go, and saying, F you, I don't care about my past. One thing that you said, I really want people to hear this. You're thankful for what you went through because it's helped you build the life you have now.
Absolutely.
I really want our listeners to hear that. Those of us who have gone through enormous trauma, people think we're crazy when we say we're thankful. But I'm going to stand here. The three of us all have different levels of trauma. I promise you, all three of us would not be the women we are today, the moms we are today, and achieve what we had we not walked through the fires we've walked through. So if you're listening today and you're in the fire, know someday you'll be thankful for the fire. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Absolutely.
Please.
And I think it's so, doesn't it seem unfathomable when you're going through it, to think you would ever be grateful for that. I mean, it's crazy. And I
Right.
promise as time passes, oh man, it shapes who you are and who you are meant to be, and a version of yourself that you didn't know existed. And
Mm,
that's so powerful because, has this version of me been in here all along? And I don't know the version of me that's going to be 10 years from now, 8 more years from now, 5 years from now. And that's such an exciting feeling to know that she's in there and she's done the work and she's still doing the work. And you never know what lies ahead.
I
You never
love
know.
that. I love it. Okay, so the people who are listening right now, maybe they're having doubts and struggles, and maybe you do have doubts and struggle. I know that I'm pushing my life. I have doubts and struggles.
Absolutely.
What keeps you going? What's your mantra, your practice, belief that helps you push through?
It's so elementary. I'm really good at very simple things, because that is what like I said, that's the capacity that I can handle.
Yeah.
So one thing that I live by is nothing changes if nothing changes. And I know that sounds so simple. I know that sounds so simple, but and even in my life, when I am just exhausted, I mean, my life is not perfect. And so I definitely don't want to paint a picture that it is. I am exhausted today. My son is sick. I mean, lots of things are going on.
Yeah.
But nothing changes if nothing changes. That can be my attitude. That can be my people, places, and things newly in recovery have to change. It can be, making more money in the industry that I'm in. I'm commission based. And so how hard I work is how much money I'm going to make. And if I want to make more money and nothing changes, then nothing changes.
Yeah.
And that is just always something I live by. And I tell my son that he's 7, and that's how simple it can be is, he gets to choose his attitude for the day, and nothing changes if nothing changes. And I think that that's so important. And of course I still have doubts. Of course you still have doubts and struggles and different things and things we don't know how to navigate. And I think that's just been such a powerful, small, simple statement for me.
I love that. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I need to put that. I'm going to put that in. Hey,
Yeah. I need it
remind
tattooed
myself.
on my,
Tattoo right there.
seriously.
Hey, sister, right here. Hey, there are professional women that are listening and men, and you have achieved so much. What's one piece of advice you'd like to give everyone listening who feels like they're never going to reach their goals, they're never going to reach that potential of the person inside? What's some advice you'd give them?
Man, is, never, ever, ever give up. Never doubt yourself. Never think, oh, that's for them. That's not for me. Because I did that for a long time. And that is such a sad, gross, depressing feeling. They deserve that stuff and I don't. And why? Why don't I deserve all these good things? Why on earth am I not worthy of those things? Do the work. It's hard. It's so hard. I hate therapy. I hate it. I'll tell you right now. I absolutely hate. I mean, my therapist was great and she's wonderful. So if she's listening to this, you're great. I hate therapy. I hate sharing emotions and talking about past traumas and all of that. But I am telling you right now, putting in that work is so worth it.
Yeah,
it's so worth it.
It is absolutely saved my life. Saved my life.
Amen. Yeah.
And many of my consulting coaching clients, they come to me and I'm like, okay, I'll help you, but here's a good therapist. And Jada and I on this show, it's interesting. Every episode, everyone has said the importance of good therapy. I really, if you're listening to this, the reason we say this is no therapists are paying us. It's because we are people who have walked it, lived it. Lindsey is telling you the truth. You don't need to do this alone. There are professional people who can hold your hand and help you get through whatever you're facing right now, because there is goodness in you. There's potential in you. And we want you to know that. There's no reason to give up. Hey, Lindsey, as we wrap up this part, looking back on your journey, which has been amazing, and I knew your story already, but today I got to learn some even bigger things about it, and makes me just that much more inspired by you and endeared to you. But what's the biggest lesson you've learned about resilience or success or balancing ambition and life's challenge? I know that's a lot, but even if it's just resiliency, what's something that you've really learned?
One thing I think I have realized as a woman, as a
Mhm.
professional, as a mom, as an alcoholic, as all of the things
Yeah.
that I am and have been, is that we are so much stronger than we think we are. And I think that when you're in a dark place, it's really hard to see that. And I think for a lot of us who have a lot of traumas and have addiction issues or depression or anxiety, things like that, for me, it was a lot of why me? Why me? You know what I mean? I don't understand how I was chosen for this. I feel like I'm a good person. I'm, whatever. And man, I'm so grateful that it was me. I'm so grateful that it was me. We are so much stronger than we think, and we can absolutely get through anything. And when life really throws curveballs at you and you are really dealt a shitty hand, and some of us just are. Some of us just are. And, and I know that you relate to that. And some of us are just dealt a shitty hand. And you know what? That doesn't have to be who we are. That is not who I am. That's not who I am. I had to find who I was, and that took some navigating. Who really am I? Who is this person? And that can be exciting.
Mhm.
And man, I'm telling you, if you have goals and you have ambitions, you can get through anything to get them. I would look at other people, like I said, and kind of say, oh, that's for them. No, it's not. It's for you too. It's for me. It's for you. It's for Jada. It's for whoever's listening to this, because without that ambition and that drive and that resiliency, none of us would get anywhere. We would all just be kind of going through the motions. And who wants to live their life like that?
Well, I hope no one, because I see so much beauty come out of what I call the fire, the ashes. And you are living proof of that.
Thank you so much.
Please stay on, because when I do the rubber meets road, I'd love to bounce some things off you, but
Okay.
I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story, your bravery, all that you do in our community. And I look forward to the world hearing more and more about you and who you are. You inspire me very much. So I'm going to get emotional now.
Yeah, I didn't even cry. I didn't even cry.
I know Lindsey said she was the emotional one, and she was saying how Mikey literally saved her life, and I was like crying over here. I was like, I'm gonna mute my mic for a second in case I
cry. I
sniffle.
love it. All right, Jada. So we have, one of the things that Jada and I like to do is make sure that you understand some science. It's important to understand how our brains work, so that you can grab from science to take this to the next level. So Jada, I think you have a couple of concepts that you want to go over with us scientifically.
Yes, I do. And I love that we ended on resilience, because I'm going to go straight into some resilience science.
Okay, awesome. I love it.
The first point really is that resilience is built, it's not born. And so the science really says that resilience isn't a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be developed over time through intentional practice and mindset shifts, like Lindsey was talking about. There was a key study in 2015 from the Annual Review of Psychology by Dr. Ann Maston. She introduced the concept of ordinary magic, so emphasizing the resilience arises from common psychological and social processes such as optimism, problem solving, and supportive relationships. So really the key insight that I wanted to pull out from this study was that resilience isn't about being a superhuman. It's about using the resources around you and within you to recover and thrive.
I think Lindsey just explained that to us pretty well.
Very well. Yes. I love that we pulled the science before we did Lindsey's interview. So it's fun that it aligns.
It works. It's real.
It's so funny. That is happening more and more. After we finish the interview, the science
lines up perfectly.
It's beautiful.
It does. It's wild. But I mean, I guess it proves the point.
Yeah.
It drives it home, really.
Yep.
So the second concept that I wanted to talk about was the brain adapts and recovers through neuroplasticity. There we go. I was curious if I was going to hit that right. So the science there says that the brain has the incredible ability to rewire itself after setbacks or trauma, allowing you to rebuild confidence, hope, and emotional stability. So a key study there was research in Nature Reviews Neuroscience in 2011 by Dr. Sarah Jane Blackmore, and she highlights how neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections, enables people to adapt to change and recover from emotional wounds.
Good.
So that kind of goes into, I know Lindsey very briefly mentioned EMDR, but Athena and I are both very big fans of EMDR. And
I love that.
goes into that
Okay.
as well. We both have our own experience in that. So
Yep. Highly suggested.
It's
highly
wild. The
suggested.
magic behind EMDR. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but do that, everybody. I'm telling you. It's so
All
great.
three of us do it with a professional trained person.
With a licensed, trained person, please.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So anyways, the key insight that I really wanted to pull out from that was when you actively engage in positive habits like mindfulness, gratitude, seeking support, you're rewiring your brain for that resilience and recovery. And then the last one, I think, yeah, okay, one more. I was about to say last, and I was like, wait, do I have a fourth? No, anyways, the last one is connection is key to overcoming adversity. The science really there says strong relationships and community support are some of the most powerful factors in helping people recover from setbacks. And a study done in 2004 was published in the American Journal of Psychiatry, found that individuals with strong social support were significantly more likely to recover from depression and trauma. And a key insight there that I wanted to pull was isolation can make adversity feel unbearable, while connection provides strength, perspective, and emotional healing. So really what that means for you listeners is reach out to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a mentor. And that is a crucial step in rising after life's challenges. So
Don't do it alone.
Don't do it alone.
And one thing to add to that, Jada, is
Yeah.
and I don't. Here's the deal. You're not supposed to talk about AA on any kind of public platforms. I believe in anonymity for every single person in those rooms except for myself. I have chosen to recover out loud, and I go to AA meetings, and that is my story. But I'm telling you, there is magic in that community. There's magic in having a sponsor, at someone who relates to you, that you talk to about the nitty gritty, and you talk to them every day, or you talk to them twice a week, or whatever it is. That community. And that is why I always say I will recover out loud. And I've said it probably 15 times on this episode.
I love it.
Because I am always one to reach out my hand to the next person who's struggling, because someone reached out their hand to me. And without that hand and without that person, I don't know where I'd be today. I don't know that I'd be here. And seeing the magic in that community, because at the end of the day, and all of the craziness and the political climate that we're in, and just the craziness in the world in general, we are all still humans, and we are all still struggling with something every single day. And all of that aside, I am telling you the magic, and you know it. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the magic in having that community and that peer support is so powerful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Amen. Because,
Amen. I love
you
that.
can't do it alone. You cannot do this alone. Isolation will feed whatever problem you have. Isolation will feed it. And you don't want to do that. So I want to give you guys some rubber meets the road. And it's really kind of funny because these were written way before Lindsey's interview. So it's fun how they align. And so I love this. I'm like, honestly, you guys, we built this before, and just the interview questions. And so this is so fun when it all works together. But the one thing, again, please like and subscribe, but also save this, because this is that rubber meets the road part. Number one step, you guys, acknowledge and accept where you are. Lindsey talked about this, right? So how do you do that? Take 5 minutes to reflect on your current situation and ask yourself these questions. What has happened? How am I feeling? What control or out of control thing is happening right now? Take time for a second and analyze what is really happening in your life. Where are you at? Write down your answers to those and ask yourself, is this where I want to be? Right? Awareness is the beginning of change. Lindsey said, you can't, tell us your quote again.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. And this awareness is beginning to understand what even needs to change. So the second thing, this is rubber meets road, second actual action step. And Lindsey brought this up. I'm so excited. Set small, achievable goals daily. Right? She talked about it. Make a list. Today I'm going to do this. I'm going to stay sober. Today I'm going to think about gratitude. Whatever it is, identify one small thing, add to 2, add to 3. It could be today I'm going to answer that email I'm avoiding. It could be today I'm going to take a walk. Whatever it is. If you're really struggling today, I'm going to reach out to somebody and be honest with them about how I'm feeling. Okay, that's huge. Huge. I'll just be frank with you guys. You guys know I'm pretty honest. We know my daughter is really struggling. One of the things I did recently after one of her appointments is called a mom who has buried a child in the last 6 months. And I told her, I said, I'm really struggling with this appointment, what I heard. This is a woman who knows what I'm living through. And just to sit and have that conversation with somebody that I didn't need to explain the emotion, who could just sit with me. And we just made it. She said, make a list. This is what you got to do. Right. And so it's just, I called that person and got the baby steps. So you guys, small steps, baby steps. And then reframe your setback, okay, as a lesson. Whatever is going through. Lindsey talked about this. Her addiction just became a lesson to set her life up differently. So I want you to think about whatever's happening to you right now. If you caused it or something else has caused it, what can I learn from this? What lessons can help me going forward? And what strengths am I going to discover about myself? So again, sit down, journal these things. What am I learning? Who can I become? And what strengths can I pull from this? That's taking taking in the fire and learning from it so that you come out stronger. And my last rubber meets the road, and Jada said it, Lindsey has said it, you guys, build a support system. Do not go this alone. Reach out, get a mentor, get a coach, get a friend, get a sponsor, and be honest. Get into a community group. Do not isolate. I have done that before. It is fed the depression, anxiety, all the negativity is fed in isolation. Get a group of people, be honest with people, be vulnerable with people, and allow yourself to be loved on, protected, and nurtured, and somebody walk with you. I just want to say this too. Getting back up isn't about perfection. This is really important. It's about progress. Okay. Lindsey didn't come out of rehab and instantly became the woman she is today. Okay. That's not real. It's a process. So start by accepting right now where you are, take small steps, reframe, right? There's a setback, and learn, and start embracing the human being that you were meant to be before this hardship. We really want you to hear that. So Lindsey, again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. I love how it all fit together.
I do too. Thank you so much for having me.
That's awesome. Hey, Jada, so how do people connect with Lindsey, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, Lindsey, we're grateful for you. We're thankful that you were on this podcast and just an inspiration to so many people. And so thank you for sharing your story and recovering out loud for those other people that need that hand to reach for. So thank you, Lindsey. How can people get connected with you? I know we mentioned Sober Vibes OKC at the beginning, so I'll make sure to link an email and a website for that in the show notes below. But also, if people want to connect with you personally, whether that be for your mortgage business or for just personal connection, how do they reach out to you?
Sure. So I'm all over the socials. I'm Lindsey Scott on Facebook. My email is lindseyandteam@stridebank.com, and my cell phone is all over the place. It's 405-301-5609. Also Sober Vibes OKC on Facebook. We would love to have you follow along in our journey of getting the next home and watching these women thrive and change their lives. It's been incredible to watch. So please follow along with us. I'd love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lindsey. And I'll make sure your phone number, email, and all the Sober Vibes OKC information is in the show notes. That way, if anyone is on their treadmill or driving, we'd hate for them to stop and, wreck or something while they're trying to write things down. So I'll make sure all that's in the show notes so they can save it and come back later. Aside from that, other ways to connect with Athena and I, we kind of joke about it, but you can find her just about anywhere. Athena Captain is a very uncommon name. So just Google us and you're bound to find us on other social media social media platforms or other platforms if you're wanting to listen to this podcast elsewhere. So that is where you can connect with us. But to leave you with something very serious, this is not your practice life. So don't wait for perfect. Start messy, start scared, and just start, because nothing changes until you do. Take one step today toward the life you want and dare to share it with us. We will be standing here with you every step of the way. We'll see you next week.